So we're going to do this.
No pressure.
No pressure.
We're going to do this little scene that that Serene wrote for us. And if we were good actors, we wouldn't be on script, but we just got the script. So, so bear with us. Okay, I'm coming in for an interview. Okay, great. Oh, I need my glasses.
Very important. Glasses. Hi, Bob. I'm Melissa.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. How are you? Come on
I'm
in.
good, thank you.
Please have a seat. Great. So it's a little, how do you feel about the weather today? It's a little balmy, isn't it?
What does that? Oh, balmy, yes.
Balmy, yeah,
Yes.
just warm outside. Yeah. How are you feeling?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm very good. Thank you.
Very good. Well, I'm going to ask you a few questions and just feel free to answer. We just want to get to know you a little bit. Just want to know a little bit about your history. So let's jump in. Let's get started. So tell me, what inspired you to pursue a career in marketing?
First of all, I think I have great communication skills, and because they're essential, and a marketer needs to understand the requirements of the clients and be able to communicate their needs and concepts and so forth. Oh wait, oh, my phone's buzzing. I'm sorry. Let me take this real quick.
Sure.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
My buddy wants to know if I want to drink later. Yeah.
Great.
Also being able to organize and work in a fast-paced environment is also such a skill. I think that's very productive and proactive in trying to persuade clients. Very valuable.
Good, great, thank you. Since we're a marketing firm, of course, we want to talk about social media. So what social media channels are you familiar with? What have you worked in?
Oh, I prefer to work for managers who's available and who's for assistance.
And about, sorry, social media. What are you familiar with?
Oh, the wrong one.
Yes, it's okay.
Well, I have experience about using social media in my personal life, and I have. I also use it for my professional life. I'm like, oh my gosh, my kids were playing the other day, and like, oh, do you do Wordle? It's a really cool thing. But I have experience with social media in advertising and all its functionality.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I think we'll be in touch in the next couple weeks or so, either way. But thank you very much for coming in today. I appreciate your time. You're welcome.
About the interviewee. Very nervous, yeah. Like, what's the indicator? Like he's nervous.
Many. Go ahead. His posture, like the shrug, the small shoulder, light breathing, was very shallow breaths, and like not answering the question directly. I don't know if it was a line thing or actually it could have made sense either way. Yeah, there are many indicators: body language and the communication style together.
What do you guys think about the interviewer?
Well, she seemed to me, she was far more ready and prepared. And she knew what she was going to ask. He did seem nervous. I saw it in his legs. His legs were back and forth and back and forth.
Okay. So Ellen, do you mind to tell everyone, like, how do you establish this role like into a very nervous interviewee?
Well, it was an easy role to play because I get nervous a lot. Yes, you're correct. The physical posture was closed in. Physical nervousness, like the legs going back and forth and constantly using my hands. I rarely made eye contact with her. I went off the subject. I didn't really listen to her questions. Yeah, that's it. This is the things I thought about what not to do basically, or what try to control yourself with in an interview situation.
With that said, taking a phone call mid-interview was very confident.
That's a big no. No, don't have your phone with you or have it on. And I mean, could you imagine if somebody did that in front of you, even on a date, if they did that? It's a big red X.
You also lowered your voice a lot at the end. Almost I
Right.
couldn't hear you.
Yeah, your vocal power, make sure you're on voice, and we can talk more about that later as opposed to talking under your breath or making sure you're heard.
So like your role is in the beginning, she's like really friendly. And then in the end, she start to feel a little bit impatient.
Yeah.
How did you establish your role?
Yeah, well, one thing that I was trying to do too was in stage, when they talk about being open to an audience, we talk about sort of keeping your shoulders back, keeping your chest up, right? As opposed to guarded or something. So I was trying to be open. I was trying to, talk about the weather, keep him at ease, do a little bit of an intro before we started talking. And I was trying to make eye contact with him and almost try to support him a little bit too. So just more in the physicality, keeping open for the person.
Okay, so we have our second theme.
We do?
Yes, we do.
Surprise.
Okay, same observation task for everyone.
Hi, Stephen. My name's Melissa.
Hi, Steve.
I'm just gonna bring you right in. I'm a little short on time. I have a meeting in about
that's
15 minutes. So
Yeah, thank
if you can
All
just come in, we're just gonna jump right in,
All
get
right.
right to the question. I hope you're comfortable. I hope my assistant got you some water or
She
something.
did, she's very
Okay,
helpful.
great.
Thank you.
We're just gonna jump right in,
Okay.
okay? What do you think are 3 essential skills for a career in marketing? Go for it.
Well, first of all, communication skills are essential. A marketer needs to understand the requirements of the client and be able to present themselves and with the ideas and concepts. Being able to stay organized and work in a fast-paced environment is also essential. I think being proactive and trying to anticipate these client needs is also very important.
Great. I love that answer.
Okay.
Second question for you. Can you talk just a little bit about what style of management you prefer? How do you work best?
Well, I prefer a manager who is available for assistance and when I need it, but is otherwise pretty hands-off because I'm pretty confident of my own skills. But I understand that at first, more hands-on approach is necessary in order for that manager to have a sense of my capabilities and our level of trust and comfortability.
Great, wonderful, great answers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in today, and we'll be in touch. You should be hearing from us maybe in about a week or so.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, a pleasure meeting you
Thank
too. Thank you very
Good day.
much.
This time, his name is Stephen in this story. So how did Stephen do?
Very confident, yeah, answered the questions in a great manner. And also the voice was giving the firm confidence, yeah.
What about Melissa? That's her name in this show.
Melissa was won over. I think she started very impatient, but then realized a great performance and came around to Stephen.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, so right now I want the two of them like introduce how you can be using your voice, your posture, your how you stand, how you walk to show your confidence. Yeah, Ellen, do you want to start to expand a little bit of that? Yeah.
In my career, in our industry, we have auditions. Basically, they're interviews. And I learned through my training as an actor that when I had to apply for what we would call normal jobs, 9-to-5 jobs, your jobs, that I was able to apply the skills that I learned as an actor. So it's pretty universal. It's how you present yourself when you walk into the room all the way to the point of when you leave. So that's your physical manner, your stance, and all this comes in and shows and exudes confidence. Take your time, ground yourself. If you find yourself fidgeting or something, if you need something to hold on to a pen or something to stop your hands. I do this a lot, and when I try to express, and so it's something I'm aware of. Also, when you speak, this is something I had to learn to refrain from is saying a lot. And I still do it. I don't know, you may have noticed it. It's something that can be noticeable on the other side of the point. And also the training in voice, breath control and whatnot. These are things that you don't necessarily have to take class for. They're simple exercises that you could do for yourself to help you in these things. Also in preparation, we talked about preparation. Have a friend mock interview like we're doing here, because prepare yourself for situations or questions that might be asked upon you. It's pretty simple. You know what they're looking for. Have your friend ask you those things and improvise your own answers. And you'll find that maybe half the time that you're going to answer the questions that you already rehearsed with your friends. So those kinds of things help. And you can do it Zoom now. I mean, it's a great way to practice those kind of skills. What do you have to add?
Yeah, I was actually, it made me think of something. When Alan was talking about improvisation, there's in theater training, when we talk about improvisation, there's something that we call yes and. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's generally if your scene partner throws an idea out for you, instead of blocking off and saying, no, I don't like that idea, I'm gonna change it, I'm gonna do something else, you say yes, and here's what I'm gonna do. So you receive what they're saying and then you build on that and you make it even bigger. And then it's like a pendulum. They take it back and they say yes and the next time an idea comes back. And I think that's something that's pretty good to do in an interview, that improvisation where you might get a question where you go, oh, I wasn't prepared for that question. And rather than thinking, put up a guard or I'm scared, just go, okay, yeah, I can improvise on that. I can talk about that. And I think the confidence and we do in singing, we warm up our voices, we warm up our breath. I warmed up before I came here today just to even speak. So taking that time to take a breath to warm that up and also warm up the pitch in your voice. I don't know if you noticed when we were here, that when I was interviewing for the first one, I was speaking at a little bit of a higher pitch, maybe a friendlier pitch. When I started to interview for the second one, I was speaking at a little bit of a lower pitch, just to sound what in my mind sounded more authoritative and maybe more intimidating. So playing with pitch in your voice too, that's something that actors do, but we actually do it naturally every day in regular speech. So those are just a few skills that actors use, yeah, for everyday speech, for everyday interviews and auditions that we do.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So the 2 scripts I sent to them are actually the real marketing interview scripts that some company, the 2 participants, the 2 interviewee all got their job. So the answer, the contents are good, but the first interviewee shows really nervous. So a lot of us can't even focus what he's saying, right? The second one is really confident. So even though both the answer was good, we cannot focus because how they review or how they express themselves. So, so for the past 10 years, I've been teaching a public course online every Saturday, and there will be sometimes 200K people watching me. In the beginning, they took screenshot, and because I was nervous in the beginning, my face is always really awkward, and my voice is also like shaking in the live streaming. So after practice, like they said, like the posture, like how I sit, and so I have a voice coach. So my coach taught me that when I speak, I have to smile. If it's like very important event, I will smile when I'm speaking. So after practicing, right now, every time my fan took screenshot, I always look nice. And they can feel my confidence through that live streaming. Yes, so that was the technique. And like why I chose interview today, because through our lifetime, there's so many interviews, like school admission interview, job interview, like if you want to get promotion, even the blind date can consider as interview, right? So I think that's very important for all of us. That's why right now it's your turn, because today, I want you guys to not think about your normal job, your other job. I want you guys, consider you guys as Academy Award material here, okay? Each of you are stars today. So the pair you just had, you will exchange. So each of you will be row A and row B for one time. Okay, so the scenario here is the interviewee is a CEO of a company and apply an EMBA at Harvard. Okay, so the goal is wow the interviewer. Okay, I also prepared script just in case you don't know what to say, but I highly encourage everyone just use your own, just answer whatever you want to, because the most important thing here is to be confident. So don't worry about your content. You can read it out loud, you can just answer whatever, but just be confident. Show your confidence in that conversation. Okay, so this is just a backup plan. I highly encourage everybody just be yourself. And just think about, oh, if I am a CEO and I want to apply, and then the interviewer you can just be creative. It can be a mean interviewer, it can be a bossy interviewer, it can be a super nice interviewer, do whatever you want, okay? And you can be challenging as well, like all of a sudden add some new question, just be creative, okay? So where do we start? So quiet.
All right, Lee, let's do this.
Okay, do you want to go first?
Would you like to use
Let me go.
Yeah, okay.
Tell me, you have 3 minutes to tell me. And not be one thing that I know really.
Hi, my name is Lee, and currently a startup entrepreneur. I own a business called Our Education, which is basically about bringing our education to the rural parts of China. So to actually empower the kids with the I really do combine my passion for art with the entrepreneurship skills that I have in order to create more impact. And that's the main reason why I want to apply for your program as well, so I can sharpen my skills and then make bigger impact globally. So I guess that's how years is a huge 5 years, I guess. Because my company started 3 years ago. And before that, I had no idea what to do with it. I only had this little idea. So I guess like the whole process of me starting a whole company and then exploring different obstacles and overcome them is very valuable. It really teaches me how to be a leader, how to be an entrepreneur, and how to cope with different difficulties when it seems impossible to overcome. You know, so I guess the whole experience of doing it just give me a lot of confidence whenever I feel, whenever I so I guess that's how I get from the last 5 years. Whatever. Or do you want to switch roles? Okay, I'll do the interviewer. Okay. Welcome. What program are you applying to?
I applied for the art ISS project.
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, my name is Anne. I'm a student, so I just get I'm really my major is also my is also match the marketing program. Yeah.
Nice. What do you consider is your biggest strength?
I've never used so
What's your path? Why do you think it's Yeah, like past experience, like what did you do?
Okay, so I really want to start, doing this. I think but this is online class, so we saw this professor. So I practice a lot. I have a lot of like a lot of people that I yes, like practice depends my skill. So
I just realized I answered the question wrong because where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Okay, so where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'll let you know the results while we have stay tuned.
How did it go? Yes. Yeah. Okay.
How do you like it?
I want to be successful in
What culture are you
right now, my business.
So, oh, that's a coach.
Oh, no, it's not that.
Got it. What do you want to run in this year?
What did you notice about him when you interviewed him?
I think he's very active.
Yeah.
Very active, strong ability, strong skills.
Because when I speak, I always use my hands. Like that's to reinforce my speech or everything. You know, I'm currently doing right now.
Yeah, no, it's natural. I have that problem as well. But you'll learn to temper it down. I mean, if you notice it, like you can, you get your whole body or your whole thing. But don't try not to like stop yourself. Don't allow yourself. Yeah. And I know this is a very relaxed situation, but I did notice about you too, because I see what you're doing right now. You both did it when you were talking. So I saw the two sides doing this. It's okay as an interviewer because you don't have anything at risk. When you're being interviewed, that can be distracting, and they may not even be seeing it. Also, keep yourself moving, because open your arms. There you go. Because this is a closed. See how it closes the body? Yeah, it's closing the body, and that shows insecurity. So you can do this, you can do this, and maybe at one time, but not try to realize this. If you just constantly tell yourself, "I'm open," yes, and I'm open. Good thing to practice. Even with talking with friends, I try to practice those things because generally, even though I'm an actor, I think there's a question there. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? In real life, I'm an introvert. I know people think that because I'm an actor, but I do those things because it's a job. But in my own life, I would rather stay home. I don't want to. Yeah. I like one-on-one. I don't like big rooms.
Okay, how did everyone go? Good? Very, very good. Everyone get the offer? Everyone become Harvard alumni next year? Whoa. Okay, tell somebody that our company get you into Harvard, okay? Spread the word. So next, we are moving into a very important part of today's activity is tell the story. So we will definitely give everyone a task to share a story that make you happy. Following the 3 steps, the format: who, where, when, why, how. So your story need to include who, where, when, why, how, and then the highlight, the key point. So in a well-made play, we have logical exposition, inciting incident, denouement, and obligatory thing. The key point is the memory point that makes people remember what is the highlight of the story. Like the Obama story, I remember the chicken. Okay, I remember the chicken vividly. And your personal touch is also very important in the story as well. And your story can be long, it can be short. That just, you can design your story that way. One story I always like to share is, so it can be a like sophisticated happy as well. It doesn't have to be like pure happiness. It can be happy and awkward. I'm gonna share a happy and awkward story, like really short story, my version. So my mom and I love to travel together around the world. And my mom also loved to take photo of me. Of course, I enjoy her photo. She's really, really good at taking photo. But when we're at the travel spot, there are a lot of people around, right? And every time when she take photo of me, she goes, "My daughter is so pretty," and she's really loud. And then it's like, "Goddess, just like me." And I'm like, Mom, can you just keep it quiet? So sometimes she speak Mandarin. So sometimes she think no one can understand her when we travel like in English speaking country, but sometimes there will be like people actually understand Mandarin, walk by and they're like just staring at us like, "Oh mom, that's horrible." So that's my happy and awkward story. It can be short, but I look forward you guys to share a rather like long story with each other. But first I'm gonna let the expert to demonstrate. Ellen, do you want to tell everybody your story?
Oh, sure, you want to go first? All right. I'm going to tell a story about a very important event in my life in which actually changed my career. I got to New York when I was 25, and I came here to visit, and I booked a Broadway show while I was visiting. So I remained in New York, and I told my roommates in LA, "Sell my car, sell my furniture, I'm going to stay in New York." To make a long story short, I ended up doing 4 Broadway shows in 2 years. The 4th one, which is what changed my life, was for Miss Saigon. The other 3, I wasn't the original company. The one before, which was Shogun the Musical, I was the original company, but it flopped. It closed in 3 months. So that I don't consider that a highlight of my life. But when Miss Saigon came about, they did a year-long audition tour around the world to find the original Broadway cast of Miss Saigon. And in that time, from my initial audition for the show to about 10 months later was my whole process of getting seen for the show. I made it to the very end, only to find out that I didn't get cast. So that they told my agent that Alan is on a replacement list. Where on the replacement list, they couldn't tell me. They just said, if something happens, then we might call him in the future. So I was heartbroken. About 6 of my friends from the previous show got it. And I had to go through a month of watching them prepare and be excited for it. Well, they were starting rehearsals on a Monday. The flop that we just happened was closing on we closed on a Sunday, and I had a week before Miss Saigon started. And I started a waiter's job. And that Friday, I got a message on my pager, on my answering machine, because back then there were no cell phones, and called my answering machine, and it was "Call your agent." And I called my agent from a phone booth, again, no cell phones. And she said, "Miss Saigon wants to see you tomorrow," which was a Saturday morning, 2 days before the rehearsal started. So I said, "Well, they're starting rehearsals Monday and they cast a show." I said, "Yes, but they said they want to see you and they're not seeing a lot of people." So I called my pianist to play for me. I had to sing 2 songs. I went into waiting room, and the the gentleman came out and said, Alan, we're gonna be ready for you in about 15 minutes. And my accompanist was like, Alan, there's nobody else in this room. And they only called your name, like you're the only one they're saying, like, I don't know if that's true. I walk in the door and there's about 20 people in a long table. It was the producers, Cameron McIntosh, the director, Nick Heitner, Bob Avian. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's the original director choreographer for Chorus Line, and all these bigwigs. And I sang my 2 songs, and I saw heads in the center just whispering to each other, and I'm just standing there for what seemed like a lifetime. The center gentleman, both Cameron McIntosh and the director are British. I don't remember who it was, but he had a British accent. Now I know who it was, but at that time, I don't know who this person is. He stood up and he said, Alan, would you care to join us Monday? Meaning he was offering me the job. And what I did at that moment, I clasped my hands and I dropped to my knees and I said, yes, thank you. It always bring me tears at that moment, because I never in my wildest dreams, because it already was a big hit in London the year before. So you knew that this mega hit was coming to New York. And we got in the cab and I was taking my accompanist home, and I put my head back in the cab and I watched buildings go by. And he was sitting with me and he said, are you okay? And I said, yeah. I just know that this is going to change my life and I want to remember it. So I remember those buildings going by in that cab. So that's my story.
Great. Yeah, I have also a story from the stage. Our lives are so involved in theater, so we have so many stories, that have to do with the theater. Mine is when I was performing at the Kennedy Center, which is our national theater in Washington, D.C. The theater that I was in was about a 2,500 seat house, a lot of people. Usually, at this performance, the vice president was there. There's usually quite a few dignitaries. So, you feel as an actor that it's a very important place. It can be a little intimidating also because there's so many influential people in the audience. But more than anything, that it's such an honor to be in this space. So I was doing the national tour of The Sound of Music, and I was playing the Mother Abbess that night, and she's a very powerful figure. She comes out, there's no orchestra, there's no overture to the show. Usually there's an overture to a musical. It sort of gets the audience warmed up. You hear the music. There's no overture to this show. There never is. And so this opening of the show for an actor is very difficult because you have to sing in Latin, you're singing classical music, the audience doesn't know what you're saying, and it requires a lot of concentration. So we were on about the 600th show. And what happens normally is that you go out there, the curtain is closed, you open the show, you have to sort of concentrate. There's going to be a light on you. The curtain opens and you're in blackness and you can't see anything around you. You feel like you could fall into the orchestra pit. You can't see if there are people around you. So we were at this performance. I had warmed up. I was ready to do the show. I was ready. I could hear the audience on the other side of the curtain. The curtain is closed. The announcement to turn off your cell phones happens. And all of a sudden I hear my pitch. There's a bell tone. The curtain opens, and instead of blackness, they had forgotten to turn the house lights down. So I could see everybody in the audience. I could see people coming in late. I could see people turning off their cell phones. I could see people telling their kids to be quiet. And it was very distracting. And it's very difficult already to open this show. And I remember thinking very quickly, okay, take a breath, concentrate, tell the story. And I had to do that. And as I was doing that, people were still rustling around, but I could slowly hear while I was singing the beginning of that music that everything started to calm down. And I could feel that everybody was getting very, very quiet. And by the end, they had turned the lights down and you could hear a pin drop in this room. And I realized in that moment, and as I came off the stage, that I have the power to do that, to quiet 2,500 people with just my voice and my presence. And that for me was such a learning experience. I was very happy about it, but I was also very empowered by it. And I think I knew that as an actor, I knew I had that power already, but to have this little obstacle where I really had to quiet down wrestling people and I could see it all happen, I felt very empowered in that moment. And I thought there was nothing on that stage except me and my voice and myself. So I tell that story because I want to encourage you, we all actually have that power. That's not something, yes, I'm trained in it, but we all have the power to use our voices and to use our presence to communicate with people. And that's really a gift. And I think every time we do it, we should enjoy that. We should find happiness in that. And that's contagious too. So I encourage you all to do that in your next session here. Thanks.
Brought a good point about empowerment, and I think it's a good point. Good thing to tell you is like that moment of me getting Miss Saigon culminated from my training and my practice and what prepared me for the nerves of that moment. Because if you think about it, if they were going to tell me 20 people was going to be there and I was going to be singing for the big wigs, I probably would have froze. But I think, but with the experience of preparing myself vocally, physically, mentally, mostly mentally, I was able to do it. I was able to present myself and not collapse and faint and allow myself to be human at the end of it and just say, yes, I'll do this for you. So preparation is good.
Thank you so much. I love the story. How do you guys feel? And now it's your turn. Okay, so in your pairs, you can start to share your story. Just remember the format. Like, so in Alan's story, he had the memory point that he has dropped down on his knee, like super, super happy. And in Kat's story, she talked about quiet with a lot of audience, just with her voice. So I can remember that. So think about how you want to portray your story with something that people can remember. Okay, I know it's, for some of us can be challenging, and for some, we have some natural here as well. So try your best and tell your story to your pair. Okay, let's start.
You want to go first, right?
You can.
You're not. Okay, I can start this again. So remember the company making up through the last session. It was not a company at all. It was a nonprofit connected. I'm working on it's not profit. Yeah, it's a volunteer. So because I love art education so much, no, I love art so much, and growing up in China, I understand I was like, okay, I do something else. So I started this organization last year, and we started developing our courses and started to teach the kids through Zoom, trying to learn it. It was really fun. I didn't know that kids such a passion for art. Because when it's pretty obvious that you're also talking and they are very scary, I feel like you can feel them being forced to sit there. So when they do art, they just go so into it. And when I think, well, okay, here is your time to make art. So easy into it. And I try to bring them out. And I remember there's a moment so there's this assistant teacher physical teacher to help us ideas create math together questions, right? Physical help. I remember this one time that we were running so studying and we don't have enough time to say. I was like, okay, teacher, you want to just stop them right here. No way, because if they don't finish this right now, they won't let me teach the next class. that moment I was so proud. When you see kids, I was like, that moment I understand that this is the art, and from now on, that's when I was like, it really brings so much joy. While they're being such an underprivileged situation, also history was influenced and that is my mission. This is the project. So I'm so
Good job. It's really fun. I told Ryan, I was like, oh, it's gonna be really fun. It's easier this time.
because there was one time that I was like in the like prior to actually teaching, I was communicating. The principal was like, we don't have any art educator here because we weren't able to afford that. So it's like, yeah, but so I realized how what's the significance of being it's gonna be for me and maybe very so.
It's not like the big like European so the reason why parents with three kids so actually there's a lot of they so the poor people I was here in the church and I was purchased the rice and I saw my house family take me to a lot of distribute that really work well. And also for the kids, I packed like I just this my soul and experience and that's like another
It feels nice to just have that poetry and how they work.
yeah.
And then you realize this is the word making yourself to what I feel like myself coming from such a privileged wealthy enough isn't for me to have a high school to go to a high school university just like very like helping the kids they're also making realize how privileged I am. Feel grateful about what I'm doing and what I'm having. It's just how
after that, just think about it. Yeah.
There's not a theory about how being volunteer work is actually self-improvement.
Yeah.
Like gives you a sense of like maybe I'm not that as I agency as well. Like maybe we're doing volunteer work just to kill our guilt. You know that idea? But if we don't do it, then we're not going to change. So I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I think this is
So no, I'm very white, not even Asian people. So in my first year of high school,
Sorry, I'm just listening a little bit.
because that's the first year they started
I know it's so intimidating. I was listening to your story,
and
but
then
I
when it go on, I was the first generation of international school, and then right now it's like okay.
I know, I've read
Small ratio energy. Like we don't have like a small, we don't really like make friends so we don't have we don't
I know it's hard because you think sometimes, oh, I'm telling you a story and I'm trying to communicate.
oh my god, yeah, only me.
But it was very good. It was really good. Yeah, and I didn't listen to Did you know?
I love really so like not much I'm going to but like anywhere else, you know, like creative people, young people, and that's why I love meeting new people from the different countries, and that's one of my main goals actually. I was like, one of the goals like find a person from another country with right, and speak another language. That can give me a lot of new perspectives to see the things. Like the idea, like, you know, like the international mentality, you know, like I heard about things that third culture, for example, your parents, like your mother is from that culture, your mother is from another culture, combined with you, you are culture already, and then you grow up in another country that is outside of that. That's the thing that whenever you're more international, so they don't belong to any country, but they belong to I really try to push myself to go for it, you know, like go for the international stuff. There's really about these experiences away from China, but from a more holistic world. That's that was so bad. Originally, my English isn't that good, and I experienced a lot of things. So I was like, very, very frustrated. I was the popular kid in China, but when I came here, there's no Chinese kids. My English is really good. And because my school is too much, the only way to get popular is to do sports, and I'm not sporty person. I was like, yeah, this is a whole another scenario now. Like, I just threw myself on the sky to and that moment taught me a lot, like made me, so that came to a situation that I have to be honest with myself. You know, that's an indicator you're not confident. But now I have a lot of it's like when you said, you know, like not having a friendship is a huge problem. That's really interesting. Transition from public to.
And did you tell me like some roles that you, I heard, I came in halfway through the story, and you said you were talking about performance. What are some roles that you played or reps you want to play?
Okay, everyone.
Yeah. Oh, you're like, oh, great. I love that show.
Okay, everyone. Did you grab your attention for a little bit?
Oh, you're both so
You're
interesting.
enjoying their story. Okay, awesome. Because I heard a lot of amazing things. We have life-changing stories over there. We have aha moment over here, and we have a lot of amazing story. And we have a billionaire sort of story here. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah, she'll take it. Okay, so how do you guys feel about storytelling so far? You guys are professional now, working on it. I heard a lot of good stories. Yeah, doing great. Awesome. Okay, so next I want to introduce our co-host. All the participants here, mostly I handpicked, curated in this room because we have a very, very diverse crowd here. In the future, we have a series of different workshops we're hosting. So basically, we want everyone to be successful. So from applying school to career coaching, to someone who retired and enjoy the life. We also want to talk about wealth management, personal finance. That's why we have our amazing co-hosts here, Nadia and Lee. Okay, so by one sentence I really like is, your network is your net worth. I like that sentence. That's why I invited everybody here.
Okay, you guys are really, really valuable people. So now let's welcome, I will give the stage to Lee and Nadia. No pressure at all, right?
No, it's a tough act to follow. for
Yeah,
sure.
how do we follow that?
So I'm going to start by telling you a little story about me. I've made many pivots in my career. I started out growing up in Western Pennsylvania in the Appalachian Mountains. I'm actually a coal miner's daughter. I've had a very interesting journey from that point to where I am today and made many career pivots. And along the way, I've tried and experimented with different kinds of, I'll use the word presence. I can relate stories about many meetings at conference room tables with very important people. And I'm sitting at the end and I don't have a voice. So I had to figure out how to create my voice. And every time I moved from one job to another, I learned more and more about that until I reach a point where I'm here today. So I'm here to tell you that when you start out in your career, no matter where you are in your career, one of the things that I wish I had known but didn't was to start thinking about my own wealth plan along the way. So when I started a job, they didn't have 401ks way back then, but the whole idea of saving and putting money away that would give me a sense of not just financial freedom, but a little bit of confidence. So I could really tie my financial confidence to my career confidence, if that makes sense. So what I'm here today is to share with you some of the concepts and things, if you don't already know. For some of you, it will be a little redundant. For others, it will be new. And I'm going to do that with Nadia, who is really an expert in helping people understand how to build wealth in today's world. So we're going to take you through a series of questions I'll be asking her. And if you have any comments, just kind of pipe in if you feel comfortable doing that. So
Great.
Nadia, I'm going to start by asking you a really simple question.
Yeah.
But before I do that, how many people pay rent? Here, how many? Okay. How many people have ever attended a concert? Okay, and how many people buy some kind of coffee, whether it's Starbucks? Okay, I want you to think about how you paid for that, for all of those things. Because when I was growing up, they didn't have credit cards, if you can believe that. So I had to pay with a dollar bill. Today, we have many forms of payment, but I want to dig down a little deeper, and I want to ask Nadia to explain to us what money is. It's a real simple question, but it's kind of not easy to answer. So Nadia, take it away.
Sure. Well, I guess before I answer that question, it seems to be a very easy question to answer, but actually it's not. I should tell you a little bit about myself. I do want to thank Serene for asking me to do this chat with you guys and with Lee. So I spent 8 years with Goldman Sachs, but I'm not Wolf of the Wall Street. I used to be, selling products. I used to manage a couple of channels of asset management in the mutual fund business. But 6 years ago, I left Goldman and I've been doing venture investing. So when I'm investing with my investors, my LPs, I do education as well. I actually help my LPs to understand what is money, what is wealth, how to preserve wealth, and how to diversify, how to look at different asset classes to make sure your wealth is actually growing. So here I use wealth instead of money because they are actually very different. So money, when you think about it, well, it came from somewhere, right? And we've been taught since a very young age that we need to study hard. I know some of you are still students, or work hard. I know some of you are in the middle of your career. For retirement, I know some of you already retired today here. So where is money coming from? So at the very beginning, I believe money is there because we don't have to exchange goods for goods anymore. It's a medium of exchange to make things easy. But nowadays we're seeing inflation. So the central banks actually print money. So when you think about the central banks printing money, the paper note and the minting of the coins, they go to the economy, they go to the exchange. How many percent do you think that printing and the coins actually account for the whole circulation? Take a guess. You're not too far off. Actually, 3 to 8%. Only 3 to 8%. Where are the other 97% coming from? It's actually debt money. It's actually created by the private banks. So think about buying a house. Some of your real estate agent, I made some new friends over there. So if you are buying a house for 500,000, let's just say, you probably will be borrowing from the bank, right? Does the bank have the 500,000 when they are lending it to you? Well, actually, no. They only need to hold 10% of actually, the reserve. The other 90%, they can actually just create it. They will just type a number into the system, and they will say, you owe me this money, and you promise to pay me back with interest. And the interest is the money, it is the bank's profit. So this 500,000 will go into the economy. It will go into circulation. So the seller of the house can use the 500,000 now. Let's say the seller of the house actually buys a car. Well, the seller of the car can use the money he made from selling the car. So every $100 can create $1,000 of circulation, and that's money. And when we think about inflation, if one apple costs $1 million, how does that $1 million? How much does that $1 million actually worth? So I'm not here to completely answer that question, but I think at least I can provoke your thought to start thinking about what is money.
All right, now the next question had to do really with what was on the Bridgepoint Capital website, the screen, your net, what was it, your net worth?
Yes, your network is your net worth.
Your network is your net worth. Okay, let's talk a little bit about net worth and the assets and liabilities that make up net worth. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that works, Nadia?
So we talked about money a little bit, and now we're going to wealth and net worth. So we all know there's a thing called balance sheet. And on balance sheet, you have assets and you have liabilities. So let's think about the money in your bank, right? So that's cash, and that's a type of asset. You probably also have jewelry or painting or a house. So those are also your asset. Your total asset, everything you own, your house, your car, everything you add it together, minus the liabilities, meaning the debt. Maybe you have a student loan, you need to consider that as a liability. So your total asset minus your total liability, that's your net worth. And the net worth is something you want to build up to the day that you retire. And when you retire, you can't make income anymore, at least not active income anymore. And that's when you actually can spend your net worth and build from your passive income as well.
So I'm close to retirement. How should I decide how much I'm going to need in terms of my net worth? I mean, I should have decided this a long time ago, but how does one, decide how much am I going to need? And then how am I going to get there?
So how many of you want to retire at 30? I like that. How many of you want to retire? Let's say retire at 50. How many wants to retire at 50? 50 will be a good number for me. What about 60? Okay, we have a nice distribution here. So that's actually one thing you need to ask yourself at the very beginning. By answering that, we can lead to the answer to how much I should have as net worth by the time I want to retire. You need to decide when you want to retire first. So you know how many years you have from now to then to build up your wealth. And then the next question is, after you retire, how much you want to spend per year? Is it $1 million a year you want to spend? Or is it 100,000 a year that you want to spend? I guess 100,000 is already pretty nice, right? But that's something for you to decide. So there are a couple of unknown factors you need to decide. And then you go backwards to work from now. Something you know now is what's in your bank account and how much asset you have.
maybe you have some cryptocurrencies as well, maybe you have a car, but add that all up and think about where to put your money now to build it up to a point. Think about climbing a mountain, because at the point of retirement, you are supposed to have the most wealth and then you can start spending it. So we have a very nice little formula that you can use. It's actually on Excel. I'm happy to chat afterwards. And we're not here to sell products. I do venture investing for my day job, but I do a lot of private coaching, and my friends, my family, my colleagues, they come to me to ask all these money questions, and I just show this little Excel and people find it useful. And it doesn't hurt to start as soon as possible. And we'll get into that as well, a little bit of why you should start now.
So I'm going to assume I have $1 million right now. How long will it take me to double that?
So have you guys heard about the rule of 72? How many of you have heard of that? The rule of 72. Well, okay, I guess ramming a little bit. Okay.
The one person over here.
Great, great. So basically you have to think about the $1 million. How much can you make every year from this $1 million? You'll probably put this into real estate. You'll probably invest in stocks or maybe bonds or maybe cryptocurrency. Anything that you want to put in, it generates return, right? Hopefully positive return, hopefully very big positive return. And then you need to think about inflation, because inflation is going against the value of the money or the asset that you hold. So let's say real return, meaning the return you see on paper minus inflation is, let's say 12%. That's very nice already. Okay, because inflation right now is 8.6%, meaning you have to make 20% on paper to make that real return of 12. The rule of 72 is saying you simply use 72 divided by that return, 12%. 72 divided by 12 is 6. So in 6 years, you double your money. That's how it works. And if you're generating real return of, let's say 24, then 3 years, 24% in 3 years, you double your money. That's the rule of 72. But it works against you as well. So think about inflation, 8.6%. The rule of 72, let's say a cup of coffee is $5 right now. With the rule of 72, in how many years will that price double? 9 years, right? 72 divided by 8.3 years. So that's how it works. So simple question, but long answer. You just need to decide how much you're making every year and use 72 divided by that number. And then you will know how soon you can double your money.
Right. Now, the other thing we need to think about in terms of what we actually take home is the impact of taxes. I know I had a young friend who just started a first job, thought that there would be much more in the paycheck. And all of a sudden they said, where's the rest of it? The rest of it went to pay taxes. And that is something that even though most of you are on the younger side, knowing how the impact of taxes is going to influence what you make and what you save and what you take home is really important. So talk to us a little bit about taxes.
Great. How many of you pay taxes? I hope everyone. Well, it's not about how much you make, it's actually how much you keep, right? So by the end of the day, you do want to keep what you earned. So there are smart ways not to not pay tax, but there are tax deferred plans. So we just talked about the compounding, right? The rule of 72. So there's a compounding effect here. The later you pay tax, the more you can compound and build up your wealth. So there are plans out there such as your IRA, your Roth IRA, right? And I don't know if you guys heard about trust and PPLI, which stands for private placement life insurance. You use life insurance wrap around your trust, and the gain you are getting on your asset are tax deferred. While actually PPLI is actually tax free, and you pass it on to the next generation. IRA, Roth IRA, those are, well, Roth IRA is actually tax free as well because it's post tax dollars. And there are other things. Some of you have kids. I just talked to Calvin, he has a very lovely daughter. And one day your daughter is gonna go to school. There is a thing called education plan, so 529. You save up for your children, and as long as you pay education, you pay for education, tuition, and of course approved plan, those are tax-free as well. So definitely take advantage and talk to your wealth manager or your accountant to find out what are those deferred tax plans. And on top of that, when you do investment, there are qualified small business. Actually people want everyone to support small business. So if they are qualified small business, if you invest in them, your gain is also tax-free. There's also opportunity zone, right? Bronx is actually opportunity zone. So if you invest there and if you hold your investment there for a couple of years, it's also tax-free. There's also land easement. There's so many ways out there, and it's actually public information. I'm here to help you, to direct you to look at the right information, but I'm not an accountant. I'm a registered investment advisor. But people actually don't take advantage of all these things available out there. But keep in mind, it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
And if you have the chance, if you're lucky enough to have a 401k, max it out, because in most cases, your employer will match a certain degree. So it's a double benefit if you have that opportunity. And again, that's all deferred. Even if you leave, you can roll that into another plan, tax-free. Okay, we've heard Nadia talk about what she's currently doing. She's investing in private markets, venture capital, private equity. And we've heard the term assets and asset classes. What's an asset class?
Well, asset class is probably real estate in some people's minds. Asset class can be also venture, right? Any private market investment, that's an asset class. It can be private equity, a little later stage, still private market. It can be stocks, it can be bonds. So it's basically a group of stuff, a group of things that has similar risk and return, similar profile. We call it asset class. Cryptocurrency is an asset class. It's very volatile, but you need to look at the fundamentals as well. So that's an asset class. So we talk about investment and how do you look at your portfolio. So you want to build a very nice portfolio and make sure it's diversified. Don't put all your money in crypto, for example. Don't put all your money in real estate. Don't put all your money in all stocks or one single stock. But if you diversify and buy 100 stocks, that's not diversified. You will have to diversify across different asset classes. That's the only free lunch for you to have less risk, but relatively high return.
Let's talk about risk and some of the newer things we've been hearing about. All the headlines about crypto and Web3. Talk to us a little bit about the risk associated with those new asset classes.
Definitely. This has been my favorite topic recently. And so many people ask me about cryptocurrency. So how many of you have invested in any crypto or you have a wallet? Okay, we have a few. Very cool. So how many of you heard about this crash of Luna Terra recently? Okay, some of you have seen it on the news. So crypto is definitely very volatile, but there's nothing new under the sun, right? It's all the same thing happening again. The Terra Luna crash is basically a Ponzi scheme. And we've also heard Bernie Madoff back then. It's the same thing. You got to ask the 20% return, fixed return they're paying. Where is that from? What is the collateralized on? Why can't they pay 20% and it's always up? There's nothing down. Well, then it crashed. It took me some time to wrap my head around all the layer ones, layer twos, and what is DeFi, what is NFT, and what is DAO. Right? There are so many terms that's happening now, but I believe one day it's just like internet. Alan, you mentioned back then there's no phone, but now we're all using our phone without even realizing it. We're using internet without realizing it. We don't say we're sending an email with the internet now anymore, right? We're just sending an email. Well, I think 5-10 years from now, we're gonna be decentralized and we're probably using DAO every day without even realizing it, but we're using blockchain without even realizing it. So I think it's actually a very promising asset class to look at. And later on, it's going to be spread out to all asset classes. Real estate can leverage blockchain. or information technology can leverage blockchain, finance can leverage blockchain. So it's something worth looking at as well. And more than happy to chat with anyone who's interested in this topic.
So what I've learned over the years is there are a lot of terms associated with finance, terms that we think we understand, but everybody has a different idea of what they mean. And it can be really complex. And it's just really good to have someone that can guide you through that complexity. And that's what Nadia does, and she does it really well. So don't be afraid to jump in. Just make sure you have a good advisor or guide to help you, but definitely jump in. I can't tell you how I wish I was able to jump in sooner. I made up for it, but right now, if you can do it, please do it. With that, I will open it up to any questions because you've all been so quiet. Ellen, do you have any questions?
I don't. This is.
Oh, Carlos has a question.
Carlos.
Go figure. Thanks a lot for that. That was very helpful. So both of you. I think Nadia is your name, right?
Yes.
What are some of your trusted sources? And what I mean is, like, when I hear about a new finance term or the rule of 72, for example, right? My first instinct is to go Google things. What are some of the trusted sources for you? What do you look at? Where do you find your information?
Sure, Googling is definitely a very good place to look at. There are courses online as well. It depends on how much deeper you want to get into. My company, Bridgepoint, we actually do a mastermind class every Thursday, and it's free to join. And you guys are all welcome to join us to talk about investment. We talk about any topic every Thursday. So today we did it before this session. We talked about real estate last week. Today we talk about digital health, actually how to invest in digital health. And it's actually a device, it's very cool. And different asset classes, we want people to diversify, right? And I think since we're at this workshop, is power up. I think knowledge is power. If you don't even know what are the pieces to put a puzzle together, and if you don't know who's the sucker at the poker table, then you are the sucker at poker table, right? So get more knowledge, get the facts, and then form knowledge, and then you will have opinion yourself as well. And then all of a sudden you will realize you have a very nice portfolio. Every Thursday afternoon, I block my calendar to have coffee chats, just with people to bounce ideas, to talk about anything and everything with my teammates, with my friends, with people who are also in the industry doing venture capital, or right now it's Web3 and crypto. I'm happy to bounce ideas with anyone every Thursday.
And most fun around that is we share stories. We tell stories about things that worked and about things that don't work. So this ties in very nicely, Serene, with what you promote as a really important set of skills, which is storytelling. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Serene.
So happy for everyone because every time I talk to Nadia, I feel I'm getting richer. And
Financial confidence is confidence.
Yes, it is. And so today, basically, after this whole workshop, you guys are good to apply Harvard Business School. You guys are good to get any job you want. You guys are good for a blind date. You guys are good for anything, and then also good for retirement. Okay, so for the next part of our activity today, we will have hat shot for everyone. I invited two of my favorite photographers. They do really, really good job. So we will move this happy hour and photo shooting to downstairs 28th floor.
28th floor.
Yeah.
We'll send everyone down.
Yeah, we will send everyone down, and we can have, like, if you have more questions about storytelling and then about wealth management, just welcome to talk to us. And of course, I told everyone on here, a lot of us have very, very interesting stories they just shared. So we can also share that story as well.
How do we join that Thursday afternoon?
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, we will send you all the link of our future event. Yes.
I'll get that too.
Great. We'll send it to everyone.
Of course. Yes, and we will do different activities in the future. So I will let everyone know. We will have different types of workshop related to storytelling, career coaching, and wealth management as well. All right.
See you on the 28th floor.
Yeah, see you on the 28th floor.
Nice to meet you. In the Instagram. You are Instagram. Okay. You okay, yeah.
On the way.
Yeah. Okay. 我想你了。